Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Shannon Kook, and I'm here with Galaxy, your boy, on Comic-Con Radio. Enjoy.
Can you see it? Is it beautiful? It is in my dreams. I hope we do better there.
We sent an exploratory team. Clark's on it.
Everything we did, everything that happened so we could get here.
If anything happens to me, it won't. If it does.
These are people's homes. They're not breaking in like thieves.
So any guesses where all the people went? This place is too well maintained to be abandoned.
Maybe. But if they are gone, there's enough room here for everybody on the ship.
I wish Maddie could have gone to school.
Wish our team could have. Did you read this?
It's not a nursery rhyme. It's a warning. Trees and plants give us shade, and we eat them every day. But when the stars align and the forest wakes, it's time to run away. For 2 days, heaven is hell, and friends are foes. It's in the air. So few are safe once they're exposed. We have no idea how to survive down here.
Okay, these are all crazy.
Here we go again.
You want to do better here. You can't. You're a cancer. You know what we do to you.
Cut it out.
Put us out of our misery. Finish what you started.
It's not real.
We've been hijacked.
He is Russell Lightbourne. Bow before using his name.
I don't think so.
They were withdrawing. Why the hell would you attack?
How many people have you killed?
Am I a monster? Yes, I am. We can change.
I believe you want to. I just don't believe you can.
Everything I did for my people.
Lock them up.
Poison dart!
I never meant for you to get hurt. Is that what you want to hear? And I'm the bad guy? Fine, I'll be the bad guy.
The Queen is dead. I'm pretty sure I'm going to hell.
Hell's big enough for all of us.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy signing in for Comic-Con Radio. Coverage of pop culture events from around the globe. Amazing interviews with celebrities. Daily recaps and reviews of popular television. The Walking Dead. Z Nation. Van Helsing. DC Titans. Flash. The Legends of Tomorrow. Black Lightning. American Horror Story. The Green Arrow. Movie reviews. Everything Comic-Con and fandom from around the globe. Comic-Con Radio. Get ready to enter our universe. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is your boy Galaxy on another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. Today we have a cool dude coming in from Canada via South Africa via our cool crazy fandom universe. He's here in our studio, live and direct. We have Shannon Kook. Shannon, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, Galaxy, I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Awesome, man. I love your accent, bro. Where are you originally from?
Oh, thank you. I'm from South Africa, but I've lived in Canada for the last decade or so. So it shifted. People find it a little hard to place. They tend to guess it wrong. But yeah, that's where I'm from, Johannesburg. My maternal family is mostly in Cape Town, and my paternal side's in Swaziland and Mauritius.
Cape Town has like two sides. It has the crazy side, then it has a big party side. Which side did you love the most?
I didn't get to party much. I was mostly in Mitchell's Plain, which is an area, I guess, where apartheid sort of separated part of the races into during apartheid. So a lot of my family, well, actually most of my family is still there. So during the holidays, because I lived in Joburg with my dad, went to see my mom during the holidays, I'd go spend most of my time in Mitchell's Plain there. I didn't really look like my cousins, so I get picked on or mocked for looking a bit different at points. But, you know, that comes with being young and looking different. But I guess it informed me as an actor and, you know, coming as an immigrant to Canada now and being mixed and trying to have a voice for Asian people, for mixed people, for for new age men, just for immigrants. There's all sorts of things that I felt ways that informed me. And so I'm very grateful for all my experiences in South Africa and Canada.
Let's go to you appreciate that. Mix is in, baby. It's always been in, but it's even more in right now. And especially you are in an area where all of the coolest TV shows are being filmed and a lot of movies. The mixed look is in. They love that. They want you to be in those type of TV shows and movies and in everything these days. So do you feel that things are much easier now that Canada has this huge hub of creative television?
Well, yeah, the mixed thing has come up a bunch since I moved to Canada. It never really got brought up in South Africa. I didn't actually realize that I came across that way to people. But now that I'm an actor, you're a bit more aware too. One of the things I've found myself encountering is because I'm mixed, I'm a little harder to place as ethnic or not ethnic. So it's tricky because I feel like there's an uprising for representation in ethnicity, but sometimes I feel like it's a little hard for people who are mixed because I feel the pressure to either be Asian or to be more white. And mixed people, it's like they want you to be one or the other, not mixed as much, I've found. I feel like now it's starting to come forward more, which is really exciting. And, with the whole success of Crazy Rich Asians this last year, and now there being Asian superhero coming forward in Marvel and with Wonder Woman, a Black Panther, it's thrilling to see, and I'm so glad this time has finally arrived.
Yeah, it's such an amazing, cool atmosphere now all over the world and in our universe. And when I say our universe, I mean the universe we're in, the Comic-Con, fandom, superheroes, sci-fi, all that universe. And you are not a newcomer in that. You have been part of it for many years. You're an ACTRA Award winner. You've been nominated for many things. You've been in the 100. You've been in Conjuring. What's your favorite TV shows or movies? I know you're going to say both, but what was the best experience for you?
What's my favorite of stuff I've done or stuff I watched?
Well, stuff you've done. I know you're going to say they're all amazing, but do you find that television is better experience for you or movies?
It's a tough question because with movies, I find you get to have closure on a character more. Even though with The Conjuring, we have The Conjuring 3 coming out now, and, I'd love to be back. It's possible. There's nothing that's for sure. You tend to have a bookend to the character, whereas with TV, you get so much time to flesh out the character. And you also don't know what's coming the next episode. So it gets kind of confusing. I do like the control that I have with calibrating how I harness my character's journey with the movie, because if I know what has happened and what's going to happen. With TV, you sometimes do something and then you see something in the next episode and you're like, that doesn't pay off what I was doing previously. You almost worry that you come off like you were being a bad actor, but you just didn't know that it was there. But I do love that I have so much time to flesh things out. On Degrassi, I was only supposed to be a guest star, and then I became a regular. But I was never in the A-plot storyline because there was so many characters, and I wasn't on the storyboard from the beginning. I was just brought in because they really liked my character. So I was there to assist the star quarterback who was coming out the closet, and I was my other regular before that. It was a kid show. So now this is very new to me, being on the 100 with a character of this depth, but also because my character is so naive and green, and he's never met anyone his whole life, but he's a fully grown man. Besides his parents that he's met, it's almost like he's a child, but he's amongst this very dark world, and it's like you're fighting for hope within a world of darkness when others see you as incompetent. But I've also been left there to I've been left in charge of the human race. Basically, everyone's asleep, and I'm there taking care of them and there to wake them up. They're under my watch. So he comes in with a lot of responsibility, but also a lack of experience, and really interesting to live both those worlds, because I find him kind of comedic and quirky and funny, but then there's so much death and blood and everything in the 100 innately. I'm not giving any spoilers, but yeah, it's a wonderful role to play. So I guess I'm not even answering your question. Do I prefer TV or film? I guess it would depend on the character.
I gotcha. Absolutely. That was kind of the answer that I was feeling that you were going to give, but I wanted to see where your mind's at, because I chat with a lot of people, all ages, different ethnicities, all sorts of life, different types of careers, and I want to see where their mindset's at. And it's kind of cool because you sound very humble and you're very appreciative of all the roles that you're getting, because you're like, oh, I went on and then now I became a recurring actor. And the 100's a really cool show, and your character is Jordan Green, and they're kind of like royalty on that show. You know, the Dominion is in your hands, and you know, you play that role. And then in Conjuring you played Drew, and then in Degrassi you played an amazing character, and you were there on 19 episodes. How does it feel to be on a TV show that Drake launched this platform from?
Drake, that was so funny, because I remember I was driving in LA and one of my friends was like, this guy's going to blow up, trust me. And I'm like, this Degrassi kid is rapping. Okay, cool. You know, you see a lot of TV people try to get into music. And this was before anyone was talking about Drake. And then about a year later, he just blew up. And I thought that was fantastic to see a guy really go for what he wants and just really pursue his passion. And this is what we deal with as artists. Whatever form you want to go into, whether it's you want to be a gymnast or an athlete or a dancer or an actor, anything you do, you have to believe in yourself, because people will always not believe in you, and that's just the reality of it. But sometimes it's them just making excuses for themselves, not being brave enough to do what they want to do. But you have to pursue that yourself, because if you don't, only you are going to be upset with yourself later. So to see anyone envision something and pursue that, Conor McGregor, watching him speak of himself and manifest all the things that he imagined, it's fantastic to see. So with Drake, you know, I met the guy when I was out with Fifi Dobson. She's a friend of mine. She used to call me a little brother. We went out, we went to a patio. It was me, her, another girl, and then Drake. And I met him, and I just remember there was bodyguards around us, and, you know, it was very tight and everything, but he was so humble in my experience. He remembered, I forget people's names all the time, and I'll see them many times. I have a weird memory. I remember a lot of things, but then I forget a lot of things. But he had got my name once, and he was addressing me the whole time. He kept checking in, making jokes, and he just kept addressing me by my name, and I was super impressed. This guy meets so many people all the time, but he was so personable, very, very gracious, and I didn't tell him I was an actor or anything. To him, I might have just been, like, not just, but to him, I might have been a fan, just sitting there with him. And he treated me just like a very close friend of his. And I've never seen him again. But, you know, Nina Dobrev is a good friend of mine. Watching her go off into the Vampire Diaries, and now her film career is taking off so well. And, you know, Sinead Grimes did great on 90210. There's a lot of other actors that I think are still up and coming, and are great actors like Luke Billick and Alicia Dea. I loved working with so much of that cast. Some of them are exploring yoga and things now, and they're writing novels, but they were fantastic actors. So Degrassi, I'm very honored to have been part of that. It's like a rite of passage as a Canadian, and a bunch of people never got to be on it. So I'm very thankful that I got to be in that story, and then also speak to some people's lives, because I had no expectation, or I never realized what kind of impact it would have had on some people going through their own journeys, coming out into themselves, and then getting letters and connecting with people. That's possibly one of the most special parts of being an actor, is how you speak to people's own journeys.
That's cool, man. Very philosophical.
Yeah.
Right? That's cool, man. You got some cool things to say, and I see that it's from your heart. And look, you're remembering people's names yourself, man. So you're the cool dude also, right? Drake remembered you, and now you're following those footsteps.
I love that your name's Galaxy, by the way. And I also love that your show, you know, you speak of being in touch with all parts of the universe, whether it's Marvel or you know, no matter how big or small. And I just think that's such a cool way of seeing things and putting things out there for everyone in media, or whatever they're doing, or what art they're putting out there. You know, being in touch with all parts of the universe. You know, I know that you're talking about some people may see it a certain way, but when I hear that from you, and then also that your name is Galaxy, I'm like, this is a cool show. This is a cool person, you know, speaking for the show. I just love that whole concept of being in touch with all parts of the universe. Because it's not just about us or what we're doing, or, you know, what's bigger or what's smaller. So, yeah, I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and it's very complimentary and gracious and encouraging, and a lot of great vibes from you guys.
Thank you so much, man. We try to do that. I try to be very welcoming and supportive and really pump people up, because here's the thing. There's so much negativity out there. There's so much hate. Why do that? When you have a guest come on the show, or you have someone that they're here for you and for your show and for this radio network, you have to have them in the most perfect situation and position because they're taking their time and they're there to talk about their life. Why make it crazy and in a very negative way? So I like the positiveness. I love the support. And yeah, we follow everything all over the universe. You know, we just don't do favoritism towards Marvel or DC or AMC or Walking Dead. Yes, there is shows and podcasts and whole networks based on one television show, but we just feel there's so much out there and there's so many cool people like yourself and David Yost, and we go from A to Z. We've had everybody on here. We've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guests on the show in the past decade, and you know, it's really fun and people love it, and I think it's cool, and thank you for recognizing that. We appreciate that, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you. That's, you know, it takes a lot of generosity to be that giving, from the way you guys are, you know, pumping everyone up and being encouraging. That takes a lot of energy, so I appreciate that. Whenever I go to a convention or something and I meet a lot of people who like what I do, you have such a short amount of time to connect with someone who knows way more about you than you know about them. You're trying to make it as personable as possible, but there's also so little time and there's someone behind them and there's just so much going on. But it's give, and they're giving a lot. They're bringing you presents and, you know, you feel like you don't deserve all those things, but you take them and it's wonderful. But by the end of the day, you're so tired because there's so much giving of energy. You got to keep that up. I see you guys doing this with all these artists that you meet. I just applaud that. So thank you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. And that's cool. You go to conventions. They are people, number one. They are fans. They love being fans because they say it. I'm a fan. I love it. You know, some fans become friends and some of them become close and they follow you everywhere. And that's a cool thing. And I always tell my guests, whether they just started out or if they've been around for 2 decades, I tell them that the fans and the people in this universe that we call our universe, they control everything. It's because of them the show's ratings are amazing. It's because of them all these new movies are coming out. Because if it wasn't for them loving it and being part of it so much, it wouldn't be happening. You know, it wouldn't be as cool and as amazing. And all these new hit TV shows coming out and all these new movies are just driven by their love, and that's cool. And yeah, you do get tired, man. You're at a convention, you gotta meet like hundreds of people. It gets tiring. I've been to so many conventions and I see it. Sometimes by the end of the day, you guys are like wiped out, but still, you guys still stand it to the end and take that last photo. And do you go to a lot of conventions? Do you love those?
I'm new at them. I'm going to one in Germany in the middle of April, and I had the Unity Days. I did some fan expos for a YouTube show I did called Camilla. I played the bad guy, so no one really liked me. Sometimes they'd bring gifts. They come down the line and they'd say, hey, Shannon, I like you as a person, but I didn't get you anything or write you a letter because I really don't like your character. And then they go right to the person next to me and be like, hey, I got you this thing, and it's so nice to see you. And it was so interesting going from being, because on Degrassi, I sometimes felt like my character was too perfect, or I felt the pressure to be perfect. Just because I was trying to be a role model for people going through homophobia. So I'm like, how would I want my child to act in a situation if they were going through this? So I would try and represent ways of behaving that way on camera. But then, you know, there's like Cyclops in X-Men. I get annoyed with him because he's so perfect, but he's like a perfect guy. But I'm like, you're so annoying. And I love Wolverine because of his imperfections. So you tend to like these characters who are imperfect. So I was thinking from an actor's perspective, maybe it's more interesting to be less perfect. But that is my character. Zane Park that's who he was. He was the guy who was very in touch with who he was. I remember complaining at one point saying, yeah, I feel like that it's too perfect, blah, blah, blah. And then I went from that to playing a villain who like stabbed the lead in the back, and it just was not a perfect character at all. And then I experienced a completely different response from viewers of the show. Was there a question I was supposed to answer?
No, man, we were just chatting.
All right, cool.
Hey, that's lovely, man. That's lovely, the route you're going and the things you're saying. That's pretty cool. And, you know, that is being a role model. And, you know, I don't think you were too perfect in that. I think you were just following your character, trying to portray what was supposed to be needed, and you were being there. And if people went away and learned something about it, that's great. And that's amazing that you notice that and you take every role seriously. That's what the fans out there need to understand, that you guys work very hard. It's not easy for you to portray a certain character. And yes, I speak to so many people that are like, oh, on this show I was a villain and I got kicked in the knee because of it. And the next show I was a good guy and they gave me a hug and kiss. You know, it's crazy, but it's just that world you're in, man. And now you're in deep. Because here's the thing. Even though you feel that your career is young, it's not. You've had many, many roles. You've been in many movies, right? You've been in Conjuring and A Christmas Horror Story and, and TV shows. Man, you've been in cool ones. You know what's a cool TV show that we liked here? We liked Incorporated, but it got canceled.
Oh, yeah.
We thought that was going to go far. It was such a cool show.
That was a cool show, yeah. I enjoyed that role a lot.
You were Commander Tobias, right?
Yeah, that was a fun one. I was like 30 pounds heavier then, but I played a real cocky, it was a fun role to play. And Sean Teal was great to work with. He's now on Marvel,
Gifted,
doing really well.
He's in The Gifted now.
Yeah.
It was a good switch for him. It was a very good switch for him. Is there a brand that you like the most? Do you like Marvel or DC? Do you think you fit in better in any of those brands, or both are perfect for you?
I would be happy to be in either. I'm not, for sure. I have always loved Marvel since I was a child. I think it's because I grew up with X-Men and Spider-Man. I was just huge fans of those cartoons, and I have all the comic books. I still remember, I collected Marvel versus DC, and I went out of my way at some street festival to find them, and I got 1, I got 2, I got 4. I didn't get 3, though, and that's when most of the cool battles happen. I still don't have issue 3, but I was pumped, reading about Marvel versus DC. I used to draw a lot of comic books, and I still have my files. Even moving across the world, you have to decide what you're keeping, what you're getting rid of. I don't have my parents' basement to leave my things in, and I still kept my comic books and their files in the little plastic folders. I have all my cards and things. They used to be all over my wall with Pamela Anderson, and I used to have comic books all over the walls and Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, right. That's the 90s pinup queen. You had it on your wall.
Yeah.
Did you have her in a bathing suit or in something else?
You might call it a bathing suit, but it was like a glittery golden dress, but it was kind of like mesh, so it's pretty much see-through. And she's standing on this rock, and there's this big wave just blasting behind her, and she's got her hair up with her hands behind her head, just holding her hair. But it's a beautiful golden dress, but it's definitely very saucy. I can't believe my dad was okay. My dad obviously felt uncomfortable, but, let me do my thing.
Was it pre-Pamela eyebrows or after Pamela eyebrows?
I think it was. She shaved her eyebrows?
Yeah, she started penciling them in later on.
Oh, yeah, I guess so, yeah. I think on Bob Wire she did that back in when she started penciling. It was it was in her earlier Baywatch days. But we weren't the most well off. I went to a great school because my dad already made ends meet, but we didn't have money like the rest of my friends. All my friends were kind of well-to-do, and I lived in poor areas, so that whenever they come over for the weekend, they'd cancel at the last minute because their parents would be worried because they thought my area was too dangerous. But I never had the cool channels like Mnet, which is where you would watch Baywatch, or X-Men, which was on KTV, the kids channel. I didn't get to watch it, so I'd watch it on my friend's VHS after school, but I didn't get to watch it every day like they did because we just didn't have the channel. I still like Baywatch.
I think that's what probably lit a fire in you, in that direction of wanting to be in acting and being an artist on this level. You said your friends were really well off and you had to go and watch things in their homes, and you were so in love with pop culture. You had her poster on the wall, you had Marvel stuff, you have your comic books, you have all these things around you, and you said you weren't that well off. But look at you now. You're an artist in many mediums.
I was always doing plays and things and getting attention since grade 1 with little things. You do a little performance in class, or like a little dance routine at a party for competition, and then the school plays. But I never really realized, I think I downplayed it thinking, this is fun, but it's not something I can really do. So what do I want to do? And then when I finished school, I tried to go and do a bachelor in accounting to be a chartered accountant at the last minute. I was 2 weeks past the deadline to apply, and somehow I got into the university, did the course and hated it. I just couldn't stand. I was like, what am I doing? I couldn't get myself to do the work and sit in the library all day and have that butt power to just stay in the seat in the library. And then I'd see some of my friends, you know, doing theater, and I just never thought that they would pursue acting. And then, you know, I kind of started to resent myself for thinking, well, you know, how come I'm not as brave as them? And then I'd catch a lot of people saying, oh, I just assumed you were going to be an actor. And then I was kind of surprised that they were surprised. And then I was going to do photography. I was talking to my acting teacher. I just went to visit her before moving to Canada, and she cut me off while I was talking. She said, Shannon, cut your bullshit. Act. You're good. And I was one of my first memories of someone saying they really believed in what I was doing or me. It was a very small but large moment in my life. That's where I decided to really give it a go, because I knew I would regret it. So when I came to Canada, I looked in the back of the newspaper, and you know, there's a lot of porno ads in the back of those weekly newspapers. There was some background ads and little acting ads, and I just started calling people. And then, you know, they said, your accent's really strong. And I was doing background on shows. I had a few agents run away with money. They never paid me a few grand. I did a few gigs. And I just started trying to audition and go to acting classes and watch on set and do background, and got into some acting schools and just really gave it a good shot.
That's a cool story. I know a lot more probably happened. So when you got your acting break, was it based in Canada, or did you come to here in LA?
My dad one day rocked up after school in primary school and decided to have a surprise. So he took me to an audition at this agency, and the woman was kind of surprised that my performance, I was a bit large and out there. I don't think she expected me to blow up like that. I had to react to winning 100 Rand. That's our currency over there. And then I started auditioning, and I booked every commercial that I auditioned for, actually. And then my dad got a bit, you know, he was a single parent, and he ran his own business. It was just a bit tough for him to drive me to auditions and everything. And one time, my first commercial, I was a child. They dropped me off in the wrong place. There was no cell phones then, so I was like crying and went into some restaurant and asked some person if I could use their phone. And then I called my dad. My dad was livid because they just dropped me in the middle of nowhere as a minor. And then he came to get me. And they had to have the star from the show called Orkney Snorkney, which is this Afrikaans show. And she took me out to the movies with my best friend. We went to the arcade. Anyway, we stopped auditioning because it was just too much at the time. And then I got offered, there was a presenter on KTV, which is this channel I love for kids. It had like young presenters on it every day. And then on Saturday, they had like a few hours where they would show cartoons and X-Men and things. And I always looked, those were like our celebrities as kids. And then I had a presenter who asked my mom, you know, said he was interested in me, but I never really followed through and tried to do it. And I kind of regretted it later on. So then when I came to Canada, my first break was on a commercial playing the gangster on a United Way commercial. And then I got a guest star on The Border. That was probably my biggest break, was a guest star on The Border, which was some of the most days I've done in a set. I had to do Tai Chi, a Chinese accent, figure skate, and learn how to hit a mark. And when you're an actor who's never been on a set, it's quite daunting to know how to conduct yourself with marks and shooting takes. But that was definitely my big break. At first, I actually got the role. I was washing dishes. I was a busboy at this bar. And I remember my agent called me while I was washing dishes, and he says, oh, they spoke too soon. They want you to come in again. And then I just panicked. I thought I'd lost the role because I wasn't sure that I wasn't going to get it anymore. But I just remember cleaning up people's vomit and like cleaning dishes. And, you know, I remember panicking on riding my bicycle. I couldn't pay rent. And I was just like, what did I do? Because I turned down this big commercial with Rogers because it was a 3-year contract that offered me so much money, like so much money. As a kid who has who's like debating on buying a coffee every day. I'd look at the vending machine and say, do I deserve this chocolate? Or do I deserve this coffee? Like $1 is a lot of money. You know, every day I was spending $1. So then coming out of there and then getting offered all this money and then having to turn it down, or it was my choice at the end, but turned it down and couldn't pay my rent. And then suddenly this role got taken from me. And then I got a big break. Sarah Gavin was my co-star, my love interest. It was my first love interest on camera, which was a big deal for me too. Being an Asian man on camera kissing a woman was a big deal for me. I mean, I'd never seen Asian guys on billboards. You know, I never thought we could dance when I was younger. I never thought we could run. Like, it's not stuff I'd see in media. So now being a guy on TV, being able to show that to the rest of the world for people who are watching, it was important to me to have that happen. And then, you know, I actually remember when I was working in Canada, seeing an Asian man on a Gap ad. I was walking across Bay and Bleu from the gym at 11 p.m. at night. I saw this Asian guy on the Gap ad, and I just I teared up. I'm like, wow, I didn't think this day would come so soon. To other people, it's not a big deal, but for me, it's coming from South Africa. It's a big deal, and it's just now seeing Crazy Rich Asians and all the excitement. It's lovely to see. I mean, of course, talent at the end of the day speaks. It should not have to be about including this demographic and that demographic, but it is important to not have a narrow-minded, stereotypical mindset of what I'm going to go on here. There was an audition a few weeks ago. I turned it down. It was just before I went somewhere. It was a geeky guy he's like really nerdy and, he's a chemist and wants to get into school because of his parents, blah, blah, blah. I turned it down. I wasn't connecting with it. It wasn't something I wanted to regurgitate over and over again. The same role, again, an Asian guy. So then it came back a few weeks later and they asked for me and the role had completely changed. So I thought, wow, this is interesting. I wonder if a lot of Asian people have said, no, thank you. And they've heard that and decided to change the role. I thought that was really cool.
I like your stories. You're a good storyteller. You know what? You should share more of your stories because they're fun. I get some guests on here. I have to pull teeth. I have to stop and then pull teeth and be like, hey, you got to say some more things. Come on, let's make this exciting for the public because hundreds of thousands of people are going to be listening to this. This is your shot, man. You got to look good. And they're like, oh, really? I'm like, what? But you got some cool stories and it's fun and it's cheery. I like that story, man. But it's kind of sad too, man. You're contemplating in a vending machine to buy a coffee and $1. Now, was this in the late 80s, that dollar? Because $1 in the 80s was like $4 today, I'm thinking.
No, it wasn't in the 80s. It was in the 2000s. Yeah.
Dang, bro.
I was just poor.
I would have bought you a coffee, bro. I would have bought you lunch every day.
Thanks. Thanks, buddy. When I first moved to Canada, which was in the 2000s, I was a sales rep, and we would sell spa packages. But we'd drive out to different areas and sell things, and I'd walk around to businesses and things, and we'd choose a territory. And sometimes we'd go on tours, like St. Catharines or Barrie, or a different area, city, and we'd get a hotel there for a few days. And then we'd go all day and do this thing. So I was out in the snow, walking up and down this thing. And, you go till 5 p.m. and then your manager picks you up to pick up the rest of the team. I walked into a strip club and I tried to pitch a lot of ladies there. They always pick you up, right? You're just soliciting, blah, blah, blah. This was my first job in Canada. And I remember standing outside and the lady, she said she's an exotic dancer and I left it at that. And then she drove away with her two children in the back and it was cold. It was snowing. And then she drove back. She rolled down the window slowly. And she pulled out a toonie. And she said, love, go get yourself a coffee. It's cold. And she drove off. And I was so touched by that. I'm like, because I didn't want to spend the money on buying myself a coffee. That's a lot of money to spend. You got to save that money. Also, I'm an immigrant. And, dollars is a big currency to me. She saw that I was standing out in the snow, walking up and down. And she gave me $2. And I was like, that's a lot of money she just gave me. This lady just gave me the $2 and she's got 2 kids in the back. And also she's an exotic dancer. People stereotype people as human beings. And yes, she is being the most human and generous to me, just showing some humanity. It was really, really sweet of her. I always remember her for that.
Because she understands how tough it is to make $1. And she had her kids and she probably does the dancing for her children. And she saw you, so it probably resonated. And she's like, here's a couple of bucks. Get warm, because she probably felt bad because she's like, this guy came into a strip club to sell us stuff. So he must be desperate, while they're working.
Yeah. Oh, I just didn't look. I just tried to, no, I definitely didn't look.
You turned your head.
Yeah, I just looked down. I just looked down the whole time. No eye contact.
That's really cool. That's funny, man. That's a cool story. Yeah, you did door-to-door sales.
The fact that she drove back, that was what really gutted me a little bit. And I was like, wow, that she thought about it and came back.
Isn't it crazy that what if she saw you on Degrassi or another TV show and she's like, I helped that kid. Her kids probably watch you on TV or in a movie. Isn't that trippy to think that what if they went to one of the movies you're in or saw one of the TV shows you're in because you did door-to-door sales? You ever think that some customers might be like, oh, or no, you're like, that was such a long time ago. I look like a different person.
They probably have no idea it was me. But I do remember thinking, because, after Degrassi, I went through a period of couldn't pay my rent. You make money on the show, you get paid by day, and then you have to make the money last because there's a long period between jobs. People tend to think you're just loaded and rich and so I was bartending, and I remember a lot of people would recognize, actually every shift, people would recognize me, and they'd be like, what are you doing here? Aren't you famous? And then some people would be like, oh, you're just some washed up nobody now, huh? And people would say some dickish things to me that could be kind of mean. And I just remember, like, in my head, nodding to myself, thinking, okay, well, you'll see me later. You'll see me. I'm not going to stand there trying to prove myself. Or people like, so what have you done? They're like asking me to prove myself or sprout my resume. But when they be morons to me, I would think, you'll see me later. And even sometimes, when actors get upset about things, you don't get a role. You think, okay, well, the universe has some different lessons in store for me. There's some other things I have to learn. But when I was final two for some things, if they didn't pick me, I just think, my time will come, or, they'll see me in something later. And then I've actually had a producer come up to me afterwards at a film festival and say, they actually really regret not casting you in that, which was wonderful to hear. Obviously, I'm happy for the person that got the role, and that was his time. You can do really hard work and think you're great for something, but sometimes it's just not your time. There's other things that you need to come to terms with and understand viscerally. Through experience, I believe that you're ready to go to the certain next levels of things. So while it's tough, actually, I remember standing at that bar, looking at the crowd, thinking, man, I'm so glad I get to do this, because I would not want to be someone who didn't go through this. I'm going to appreciate where I get later. And I'm also so thankful that I get to be a guy wiping bars and just being in that lifestyle. I don't want to be someone who's never been in that sort of environment. Because some people who, they've been kids since they were actors, great for them. I find a lot of kid actors, they feel more grown up to me than I am. But there's a barrier. Sometimes I feel bad for them sometimes, because I think, well, how do you get to be invisible in the crowd and just go crazy? Or, now there's Instagram, and you almost answer to everything, but also when people recognize you, it's like you can't make mistakes. When I go to kickboxing or I'm wrestling or in a dance class, you have to just be okay with being made a fool of and getting tapped out or looking incompetent when you're sparring with someone, or you can't get a dance move. But, sometimes people recognize you and you just have to deal with that. But I think sometimes with actors, when they feel like they're recognizable, they hold back from getting into public learning situations. So they'll do everything privately, but they won't get a community experience. And the community experience is one of the best things about being here.
Of course, it takes you to a certain level, and it teaches a lot of things. And actors and, celebs and stuff like that, they don't have that luxury. And, like you said, you worked in a bar and they were talking crap and stuff like that. People do that, but people don't understand that it's so hard being an artist like yourself in the beginning, because you get roles here and there and it doesn't pay much, and you still got to pay the bills. And it's cool that you had that much honor, and you're like, hey, instead of me just like bumming it out somewhere, I'm going to still work somewhere and I'm going to make it and still feed myself. And then my day will come. Jim Carrey said in an interview, he had an opportunity in the 80s to take all these roles, but he didn't get this particular role in a movie, and that set him back about a decade. But he said if he would have got that role a decade before, he would have been nobody, because he would have probably messed it up. A decade later, he got on In Living Color, and it set him on fire, and now he's Jim Carrey. So that's a great way to think. Everybody's time comes at a certain point, and you have to take that and you have to let it explode. And especially today with social media, we're all so lucky. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all these things really helps the careers. I know people that their careers are just built on their Instagram and social media. Yep. That's it. They don't have to do nothing. Well, it's not nothing, but, it's not the grinding and going to, auditions and then killing yourself for a role. It's just, hey, I got a niche, boom, and now they're making millions. And it's crazy and it's amazing. But we have to use all of this to our advantage.
Well, and just on a side note, Instagram went down yesterday. And how crazy was that?
It did.
And it's just funny to think of. I've often thought, what will happen if we lose Instagram completely, and then we lose all our followers? The world will just be like a large re-evaluation of everything. how will we relate? A lot of business is made off of Instagram for people. And it's a wonderful thing for people to be self-made. There's also so much unhealthy images for people, not just teenagers, but people in general. It's interesting that Instagram went down yesterday. I was thinking, wow, someone needs to make a movie out of that. Anyway, so sorry, back to your question. What was your question again?
Well, the question was, I forgot the question, actually. Actually, the Instagram thing sounds cooler, to be honest with you. Yesterday, I was chatting with Tom Stevens. He's on Deadly Class.
Oh, yeah.
We were chatting, and he made this cool photo, and he was talking about it, and we were trying to get on Instagram. We couldn't, and our page was down, and none of our fans could get on.
Major panic. And back to Jim Carrey. I love that guy. He's one of my role models. I don't know what he's up to right now, but he is one interesting person. Like, that guy's connected with some higher stuff.
Did you like his university speech?
Story.
That one that really made him popular recently. He made this big university speech. What was it, like a year ago or so?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what a speech.
I know, right?
And then writing that gala, he wrote himself a check for, I don't know how much, but he wrote it for a certain date. And he ended that came into fruition those 10 years or so. I can't remember the exact amount later. Then there's the interesting story of his co-star in Dumb and Dumber. They said they would, I think his name is Jeff. Is it Jeff Daniels?
Yeah, Jeff Daniels.
They advised him not to do it because Jim Carrey's going to overshadow him, and he really wanted to do the role, but they thought it would kill his career. And now, years later, he's doing, I think it's called The Newsroom, which is a completely different tone of acting. But
very serious role.
Said, very serious. And we did some comedy, and we did a scene from Friends in theater school. We taped it on camera, and I remember seeing a lot of them just seem dramatic. And I look at the lines, I'm thinking, this is serious stuff, but why is it funny? I've asked a lot of actors, why is this funny or not funny? Because you have the same, there's the gravitas to stuff, which makes it more dramatic, but you still need to be just as invested. But sometimes the scenes would come off as dramatic and not comedic, but it's the exact same lines from Friends. But actors, I find almost comedy harder than drama. I mean, I had an acting coach say one time, you could put someone acting in a horror movie in maybe a war in the Middle East, and you have the same investment from the actor, and that film may get nominated for an Oscar, but the horror, he may be just as invested, but that won't get nominated generally. So it's interesting how people's perceptions of a performer can be just because it's Jim Carrey and he's a comedian, or Jeff Bridges in Dumb and Dumber, and now he's nominated, he wins awards for being in The Newsroom. It's interesting.
It's really interesting. Have you noticed, you've seen some of these shows or these little documentaries or these little series that follow them? They're like serious dudes. They are upset half the time. They're depressed the other half of the time. But they're the most amazing comedians in the world. And if someone like myself would read those lines, someone would be like, whoa, are you going to beat me? But I think it's their persona. And I think in Friends, it was the whole setup because Friends is a comedic show. So when they say those lines, you're expected to laugh. But if you take those same lines and you put it in a show that it's not comedic, it's a drama, you'll be like, oh my God, I feel it this way or that. So I'm thinking that's the mentality that they set up for us in advance. And then they use these things. That's my point. I don't know. I'm not an actor, but
yeah, Gil. I was watching You last night, and the guy is like a creepy dude, but he's so likable and funny. But I'm thinking to myself, how is this guy funny to me right now in the situation? Just a great actor, I guess. It's just I don't know how they.
It boggles your mind, huh? Your mind is boggled. So, is there any director? Is there any director that you want to work with? Anyone in your radar that you're like, this would be so amazing?
I'd love to work with Baz Luhrmann. I just love the way he views life and just the threads in his stories, and his stories are operatic, but they're just epic, and I've just loved Baz Luhrmann stuff. So that's definitely a director I would love to work with.
How about any actors? What's one of your favorite actors that you're like, this would be the coolest moment for me to be part of some kind of show or series with this person?
I'd love to work with Bruce Lee, but he's not around anymore. I really look up to that guy's philosophy and just his mindset, and just him as a soul is just a ginormous soul. I've always loved Shailene Woodley. I think it might be because also because of the type of person I see her as, but just her eyes and scenes, I've really enjoyed watching her in performances. I'm a big fan of Tom Hardy.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he's pretty intense. I haven't seen Venom yet. I heard mixed reviews on it, but I love him as an actor.
Have you seen some of his early acting? He's made some movies, like if you go to Netflix.
Bronson?
Bronson is something, no, if you actually go, he did a movie, I think about 14 years ago. And if you kind of look up his filmography, you'll kind of see some of his stuff. And he's a totally different dude in those movies. Now he's like this tough, rugged, you can barely like hear him speak because he's so tough, right?
Yeah.
I think that toughness came from him practicing and training and, bringing himself to become, who he is now, his persona. I love him as an actor. He's amazing. But, he's been in some movies where he's just like a normal dude and you're just watching it and you're like, okay, that's cool. Like in Rock and Rolla. He played Handsome Bob, and he was in another movie that Layer Cake. He was Clarky, 2004 that came out. Totally different dude, long hair, just different. But it shows the transition of how he changed as just like a normal actor acting normally to becoming, Tom Hardy and very few words and this tough person. And we've built him to be tough, right? Because he's the same guy as he was a decade ago. It's just the roles he's played made him and gave him this toughness, like Bruce Willis, right? Everybody looks at him like the last American hero because we've set him up to be that way in the mind. And this all goes back to those things that you were saying about lines on Friends. How is this funny? It's like we create these things. And I think you have that, man. You have that because I've seen you in so many of your projects and you are you, but it shows that you could become anything. You're like a chameleon.
Thanks, man.
No, I'm serious, dude. And I think you have that same thing going for you. You're growing, and I've seen your earlier stuff and your stuff now. And do you notice that you put like a lot of emotion into your acting?
I try to be as human as possible. It's tough on some sets, in certain situations, and with certain, scopes of roles or the worlds of the roles. I'm so excited about The 100. I think my character, I get to play quite a broad range. I haven't seen the cuts yet, but I just remember my performances and being very happy with what I gave the camera, and it's up to them to edit and see what they use. Like even in the last episode of season 5, a lot of the emotion I gave for that final episode wasn't used because I think it was also about Bellamy and Clark in that situation and not about my character. And you can't have too many people being emotional in one scene. You need someone to ground or someone to be, opposite to that to give everything color. If you just hear loud music the whole time, the scene doesn't sound loud anymore. You've got to have dynamics. So I kind of predicted that might happen. But now in this season 6, there's quite a journey for Jordan Jasper Green. I'm really, because I've done shows and not being that happy with what I've put on camera or what I've seen afterwards, or a lot of the time it's just what you have available for that character in the scenes. There's only so much that it'll be able to speak to the audience in that moment. But The 100, I'm super excited. Actually, for my last scene of Degrassi, when I go through the breakup, I saved the emotion for one of the scenes, and because we have sort of 2 breakup scenes. And that was kind of the closure of my storyline. They didn't use that scene. And I was like, man, I felt like that was, I remember walking away from that thinking that might be the best work I've done on camera. Feeling it, seeing it and feeling it are 2 different things. Sometimes feeling it doesn't translate on camera, sometimes. But they didn't use it. And then I felt bad because what the audience was left with was something before where I was holding back a bit. Yeah, no one will ever see that scene. It's up to the edit. But yeah, I try give as much humanity as I can, and thank you for that. I really appreciate that translates to you. And then, to play comedic or dark, like in Dark Places, I played this villainous character. I bucked up for him, and he was I had to sort of not talk to my friends because you sort of are trying to connect with that energy a bit so that you can sort of channel it onto camera. I was watching Chloe Moritz in that, and she would come in and out. I used to run a taping studio where people would shoot the auditions in Toronto. It was my home business. And I get some really experienced actors come in, and they'd be crying in the scene. And then they just come out, cut, and then be like joking around and just normal. And I was just fascinated watching them because they're malleable. So it's interesting to watch actors be flexible, because you can sometimes get too attached to what my character is and that I'm feeling this thing and you're just clenching, you're just tight, you know? And then watching actors who are very experienced, how loose they are. They can come in and out. And of course, you're your own car. So your car, your vehicle may drive different ways to other vehicles. And you just have to learn how to connect with that. It's always fascinating to watch other actors' processes and but everything's new. Like when I went on The Conjuring, I asked a lot of the actors if they had any advice, any tips, please, like, let me know. You know, anything they would have liked to have known when they were coming into the industry. And they're all like, man, you know what you're doing. I have nothing to add. But little things, like I was on the set.
You got it, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not the answer I want. Like, I know this stuff you can tell me. I know this stuff. Stop holding on to me, bro. Come on. I know you've got stuff. Like, I was on Degrassi and the DOP, Alvain. He's an Afrikaans guy from South Africa, and we used to connect because we're both South African. But we were outside. It was really bright. And I was struggling to keep my eyes open. So he'd say, just before the take, close your eyes, look up at the sun. And then just before they say rolling, come back down. And I found it helped my eyes adjust to the light because my eyes weren't as sensitive. So I just keep my eyes closed, look towards the sun. When they say rolling, come back down. And I wasn't squinting nearly as much. So I'm like, that's a cool tip.
That's a good
Another tip
tip.
I would give. Yeah, it's a great tip. And no one's ever given me that. One thing I like to do on sets is, because I have a director's eye and I want to direct, and the actors have often loved working with me, but I don't get to direct myself as much in scenes because I don't get to see my take. I have to trust all those details to what's reading as truthful or that angle of my body, because sometimes it's not even about your acting. Sometimes it's just about how you open up to the camera. A lot of times when you think down naturally, but when I'm with a client, I'll try to remind them, think up so the camera, or at least bring the eyes up so that you can let the audience into your personal moment, that your eyes are up. Don't go down or look away the whole time. Let them in because they want that personal moment. So with little things on set, sometimes I often try to watch, because they have stand-ins. So when they're lighting and then placing the cameras, they'll have stand-ins be on the marks. I don't know what the shot's going to look like, but I will go and watch the stand-ins do the thing so I can see, oh, this is what the lighting is. This is, if his face is this way, the light's better that way. If his body's that way, the camera might not read this moment. So you're just more in touch with the world that you're in. And then I don't need to rely on the director to tell me. Sometimes, like, the shot's really wide, but you're playing it like it's really close. One time I actually asked the director, I'm like, so are we wide or are we close? He's like, I don't know. And he got mad at me because we were shooting. It was a long shot and we're in a car. If we're playing further away, I'm going to be a bit more physical with my body. If we're close, I can just make things smaller. And then they told me to speak really loud because there's music playing. But I found the other actors weren't speaking louder, but I was speaking louder. But the audio guy kept telling me, speak louder, because there's music in the background. Then when we get to the take, the music's so soft. I sound like I'm overacting, and the other actors sound good. I'm like, what the hell? So sometimes you just got to do what you want to do. But that's another trap you can fall into, is when you have to speak over music and, you don't know how loud they're going to make the music at the end of the day. So just try and match your scene partners, I guess.
That's good that you're like open to learn things from everyone. Sometimes on set, they probably don't want to give you any advice or anything. They're just there. They want to like finish their thing and go. But that's kind of cool. That's actually a fun thing. So from now on, what other actors need to do is just go on set and say, hey, everyone, if you have anything to teach me, and they're going to be like, you know what you're doing. Have a nice day.
Especially from people who've been doing it for 20, 30 years longer than you have.
Of course. You can pass for a lot of different nationalities. I think you could play many roles, and I think the sci-fi universe has embraced you for that, the Comic-Con universe, because you can fit into so many different cool characters. And, you're a Marvel fan, so I hope somebody in Marvel listens to this and they're like, let's get this guy in. And on the 100, you can't share what's going to be happening in the future, but how do you feel the character is going to be going towards?
Well, just a little side note, I can't say what, but I was final picks for a Marvel movie, for a superhero movie. I was pinned for months. I got so close to this big Marvel movie, and it would have been so awesome. to be in it, but it's still yet to come out. So I'm curious to see whether I think they might have actually even cut the role. I almost joined the Marvel universe. It was
You will, man.
It's not.
Don't let it go. You know, they have hundreds of different characters. There's characters and comics that haven't even come out yet. Look at Deadly Class. I know it's not a Marvel production, but it's from a comic book. So there's all these things coming out, or the Umbrella Academy. There's all these cool other comic book projects, but Marvel has hundreds of cool characters. So you never know, man. You never know.
You never know. But the thing with Marvel too is because they wouldn't tell me who this character was. They're so secretive when I was auditioning for it. I tried to Google, Asian characters in Marvel. There's so little, especially male ones. There's some of the Asian ones are females, but male Asians in Marvel, there's none. There's probably can count on one hand, maybe less than just maybe. I don't know. There was very few. So I was like, who could this character be? But now the Superman recently, they made him Asian. There was a thing right up about that maybe a year or two ago. It's a new Superman. I know they've come up with new Supermans, but that's cool that they did that. And now we have, them wanting to bring a Marvel character to the Avengers, which is a great sign. So, yeah, I think they're trying to be more inclusive. Even, Nick Fury, they cast him as a black man in the movie. So it looks like they're open to having colorblind casting. It is tough, though, sometimes because, you connect so much with a character being something, and then it's different to what you envision. But, when people wanted Spider-Man, people are very open to Spider-Man being all sorts of races. So I think the world seems pretty ready to there's always going to be people that disagree.
Oh, yeah.
But the important thing is that we're making progress, and that's good.
That's
but
it.
sorry, I steered away from your question. The 100 as for
No, man, it's cool. I love your answers, bro. We're like going everywhere. We're going left, right, forward, back. Forget the questions. Let's just free for all. That's cool. That means you got a lot up there. You got a lot in your mind, man, and it's cool.
Fantastic. We're a good team.
There
we should start our own superhero crew.
There you go, man.
Yeah, but back to the 100, you were talking about what I see coming for the season with the character. Jordan's a super interesting character because he's sort of carrying the lineage of the leads from first season. Obviously, I'm the newest regular on the show, which is also unusual as a Canadian to be made a regular. One of the actors said to me, "You're lucky. Usually we had to do a couple seasons as recurrings before we were made into regulars." I think I was just in a lucky seat because of the whole storyline with what happened that, he's made into a regular afterwards. Yeah, Jordan, he has so much that he wants to honor from his parents to do better. The whole show is based around how much you would do to survive. And then are you still the good guy for doing these certain things to survive? The lines get blurry after a while. And then moving into season 6, my father, Monty, leaves them off with saying, be the good guys. We go to this new planet, and that's definitely in everyone's minds. Look, they went to bed, woke up the next day, technically, even though they woke up 125 years later. To them, you just woke up the next day and your best friend has now died and had a baby who's now in his late 20s. So now I'm going down, and I think Jordan, he doesn't have any physical experience dealing with people or situations. And I feel like he's been preparing all this time to go down to earth and be as competent as possible, but he's going to be tested emotionally, physically, in all sorts of ways as a human being. You can say you'll act like one way in a situation, but then when you're in it, you could behave completely differently.
And that's as good enough as you can say it. I know that because you don't want to spoil the situation and you don't want to say too much. So that's good enough.
Oh, yeah. Spoilers are funny. Like, I asked me a question about one of the characters at Unity Days, and I said, well, I can't answer that, but I can tell you what I thought was going to happen before I knew what was going to happen. And then I told them my thought process of what I thought would happen. Then there's all these blogs quoting me saying, oh, Shannon said this and this about this and this character in season 6. I'm like, no. I did not say that. I would never say that. And now people are quoting it. So it's so hard because fans want you to give things, but then they get twisted. You get very cautious. And, I try to give as much as I could to the fans of behind the scenes and footage and things. But then someone on the cast posted a spoiler. He posted a photo and went online, and it was not supposed to be. I don't know why they thought in their right mind they could post this. Because of that, we just had to go blackout and we couldn't post anything. So now haven't been able to give anything to the fans of us behind the scenes, and I know they're frustrated. We don't have a trailer yet. Our creator's been super tight. He didn't want to spoil anything for season 6. So we've given no teasers at all, and they're getting so frustrated. I feel bad for them. But thank you guys. Like, from me to you directly, thank you so much for sticking with us, being patient. I know it's tough, but season 6 is really going to be. I'm so excited for you all to see it.
That's cool, man. And I totally understand. And we're going to be cool with this. We're going to make sure even the things you said sound really cool. We're going to, not give all these spoilers and not all the naughties, because you got to leave that for the seeing eye and make the show fun. Now, is there anything, Shannon, that you want to tell the fans out there before we head out of this amazing and really fun episode?
I think, if there's anything you guys want to do, you have to explore that yourselves and just go forward and explore it. I know that things can be rough. I've got some letters from some of you about going through hard times and depression, and I wish I could help you all through all of that. At the end of the day, you have to be your best cheerleader, and you can't be seeking approval from others. At the end of the day, you go to bed with yourself, you wake up with yourself. You have to be happy with who you are. Make your mistakes. Go for them. Make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. The whole beauty of life is making mistakes. But don't just sit back and tell yourself you're not worth it. You will love yourself the more you invest in yourself. Just go for it, guys. Like, if you want to try something, try it, and then fail and then move to something else, or keep succeeding and then keep climbing up. But you have to take that step and be behind yourself. Like, be your best cheerleader. Go for it. There's no point saying that you can't do things, because what's the point of saying you can't? Just try. Yeah, man. You guys, like what's that saying? You're one sperm out of millions that made it, and you've already, what's that? Have you heard that saying?
I
that
do,
you've
but
already won because
I don't remember the phrase.
That's a random phrase to bring up right
You're
now.
one out of a million sperms.
Yeah, you won. Like, you've won. Like, do it. So much time in your life, and what's that other say? If you can see the ceiling, you can get up. I mean, I believe in you guys. I believe in every human is. They have a reason to be here. So there's no reason to think that you don't deserve to experience happiness and to experience the things that if you pursue for a dream, it doesn't mean you have to succeed at it, as long as you are happy doing it. Like, what is the definition of success? If you are happy and you share love with yourself and others, that's all you need. I remember seeing people in South Africa, people who are way poorer than the poor people, actually. The poorest people were the happiest in cars. I see them crammed into a car and they'd be smiling and wave at me, or I'd go into India and kids would run along the street and smile and wave at us, and then I see someone with a really nice Mercedes and they just look glum, and they're sitting. Sometimes you see them sitting at dinner table not talking to their spouse, and it just seems sad. So what really is success? As long as you are happy. If this makes you happy, go forward. If it doesn't, try something else. But no point in saying you can't.
That's really good advice, man. That's amazing advice. That's really cool. The fans are going to resonate with this. You've said a lot of cool things today. Really, really, really great things. You gave advice. You talked about everything cool. We got to know you really well. I hope the fans out there take everything you said and don't just listen to it. They hear it and they understand it and they know where you came from. I've learned so much about you, man. Just you saying $1 for a coffee, I thought twice about it, really told me a lot about you. And I hope people listen to that. And I hope your fans grow by 1 million and you get that Marvel movie, man, and you make it sky high, bro, because you deserve it. You've worked very hard and you come from, you're not from LA or New York or New Jersey or something like that. You came from Cape Town and you had a certain upbringing, and then you had to go to Canada and just keep moving and trying to fit into that society. And look, now you're on television and in movies and people get to watch you, which is so amazing. And we appreciate you for coming on the show. We know that you're going to be doing great. Fans out there, please watch the 100. He's going to be on it. We can't tell you much more, but, just wait and watch if you want to see what's happening next. Any movies coming out in the works that you could share, or we got to keep zip on those?
First of all, thank you so much for all of that, Galaxy. I appreciate everything you're giving to the universe. And thank you for all those kind words. I appreciate them. Otherwise, as for movies coming out, there's The Conjuring 3 is shooting in June. I don't know what's happening with that yet. I would love to be back, but stay tuned and maybe we'll be seeing me on that shooting on that in a few months. Otherwise, The 100 we're hoping for season 7 to start shooting in later this year, but we still waiting for renewal.
There you go, brother. Well, that's the best you can
Well, we
give.
air April 30th. Yeah, we air April 30th. And we're having our pre-screening at WonderCon in Anaheim in 2 weeks. So you guys don't have your tickets. I don't know where is this airing. This is airing later, or is it airing?
It's gonna air before WonderCon, so it's gonna be awesome.
Got you, awesome. Hey man, pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. I mean, I look forward to talking to you again. But yeah, it was wonderful chatting to you, and I appreciate everything that you give to the universe.
Likewise, brother. So let's do the ending of the show. You ready, man?
Yeah, brother, let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was a lovely show. Thank you so much, Shannon, for coming on Comic-Con Radio. We're going to exit out so you guys all know. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is your boy Galaxy with Shannon Kook on another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. And Shannon, we're going to give our kisses out to everybody. Ready? 3, 2, 1. A million kisses to all the fans out there. Shannon just gave you guys a kiss. Keep those in your pockets, ladies, guys, whoever. Just keep it, save it, and take it out when you're watching The 100 or Conjuring or whatever. But we're signing out. Peace.
Peace.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy signing out from another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. Tune in for your daily shows of Comic-Con Radio. Go to comiccon-radio.com. Reach us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Comic-Con Radio. You can call us toll-free right now. 800-976-0305. 800-976-0305. Comic-Con Radio, taking the world one listener at a time.